Hello, everybody, and I am so excited. It is the launch of the very first Welcome to the Table live stream, and I am surrounded by some amazing women. First of all, I want to say that for those of you who are joining us, whether it's from Facebook or LinkedIn, or maybe you're on the Giant platform, we are just so grateful that you've taken some time out today to be with us. So thank you so much, and we hope that this is just going to be an amazing conversation today, and we're glad you're here. So I don't want to waste any time. We only have about 30 minutes, and we know sometimes we can gab a lot, right, girls? So a lot of time for us. So I would love to introduce each of you, but I really want you to introduce yourselves. I want you to tell the folks that are watching something about yourself, whatever it is, whatever you want to tell us. So Maria, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Amy and then Jessica.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Maria Guy, and I am coming to you from sunny Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I am married this January. It'll be 29 years. I got married when I was 12. Just kidding. No, I did grow up in Texas, but not, we didn't do that kind of stuff. So my background is in construction. I spent 20 years in the construction world. So a lot of my clients end up being architects, engineers, construction subcontractors. Absolutely love what I get to do. And I've been doing Giant. I'm wrapping up my 6th year, starting my 7th in January. Amy.
That's awesome. Hi, I'm Amy Norton, coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. It's a beautiful day here too. I'm so glad we've got sunny weather for a Monday, right before Election Day. Hope everybody's going to get out and vote. I think that's awesome. I have been married not quite as long as Maria. 27 years is coming February. I'm an empty nester, 2 kids out of college, in college, and it's a great season for my husband and me. I spend a lot of my time working in the military and in the financial services sectors, as well as with a number of startups, entrepreneurs. So I love the work that I get to do. And I'm like Maria, I've been around for about 6-7 years. So it's fun that we're a little parallel there. Jessica?
I'm Jessica Rimmer, and I'm in Oklahoma City. So I hope there's a few Okies on the chat today. It is also beautiful here. After an epic ice storm, I don't know if you guys know anybody in Oklahoma, but it was an epic ice storm. It's now beautiful and sunshiny. I have been working with the Giant tools for 6 years, but I've only been consulting full time I'm working on 3. I'm heading toward 3. So excited to be here. I've been married 12 years, since we're sharing that, 12 years and 3 kids, and lots of degrees in our home. We call it the doctor's Rimmer, because I got my PhD and my husband finished medical school. And so lots of school, lots of kids, lots of change in the Rimmer house.
Oh, I love it. And I'm Tracy Rader. So I'm on the headquarter team here at Giant. I'm actually the director of implementation. I've also been married 27 years, Amy, and I am also an empty nester, which all of you out there, it's something to look forward to. I adore my children, but I also really adore my husband, and it's fun to be back together again, just the 2 of us. I've been with Giant about 2.5 years, but we have a saying here. We say, I was a client, but now I'm a giant. A lot of people become giants because they have been in a class, or they've seen a tool, or they've written or read a book from Giant, and they're all in, and that's kind of what happened to me. And so welcome from all of you. And I see a lot of fun people. I was going to start naming names, but I better not, because there's a lot of people coming through right now. So just welcome all of you. And I see that there's women on with us, but there are, of course, men too. And I want to make a point that this is not just a live stream for women. This is a live stream for everyone. Everyone's invited. So I want to start this way. Amy, will you define for us what is leadership, and why specifically, because I want the men to hear this as well, why do women tend to have to feel like they have to be invited to the leadership conversation?
Yes, I've been thinking about that today as we've been approaching getting started with our live stream. And when I think about leadership, sometimes it's easier to think about what it's not. And what I know it's not is Tina Fey bossy pants. It's not about, you're nobody until somebody calls you bossy. It's definitely not about positional authority and title, but it is about something really important, and that's called influence. And influence is really about being significant and memorable in the lives of everyone in your circle of care, whether that's home or community or your team organization, whatever the context. And when we think about it from that perspective, that gives us a different way to look at what leadership is, because we're leading every single day. And when I think about invitation and being invited to lead or being invited to be part of something, it really is about belonging. And I think as humans, we have a fundamental need and desire and drive to belong. And sometimes I think women have trouble with knowing that they belong, believing that they belong. And we sometimes bulldoze our way in, and that's not helpful. And then sometimes we have a lot of doubt. And in thinking about my own personal, professional understanding of invitation, I know there have been times where I've been extended a disingenuous invitation. You know, bless your heart, yes, you can come, but we don't really want you here. But by and large, I don't know about y'all, I want to hear from you all, but by and large, I think the question of invitation sometimes is in my own head. Maybe it's some kind of insecurity that I have, or something that causes me to think that I don't belong when I really do. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of this conversation today and getting us started. And I'd love to kick it back to you all. And what does it mean to you? How do you interpret that? Jessica, what are your thoughts?
So I think as a creative pioneer, so that's my voice, I often will assume leadership in the space of silence, in the space of no forward progress. I'll often go ahead and go there. So my natural personality leads me into places of leadership, so to speak. Sometimes the bossy pants kind, but what I think inside, even though like outwardly I looked really confident, really able to step into those spaces, I think inside of myself, I was just waiting for someone to tell me to sit down and get back in my place. Yeah. And so I think sometimes there's a dualistic experience. If you have a personality that's like a take charge personality, but then also, you know, to your point about women needing to be invited, or kind of sometimes being the first or the only in a room full of, you know, maybe executives and you're the only woman, sometimes that experience makes you go like, do I belong here? I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do, but do I belong here? And so I definitely have spent a bunch of my leadership time going, who's going to kind of get in my face and maybe shove me out of here, and confirm the fear that I don't really belong. So I think the fear of not belonging is real no matter what. What about you, Maria?
I totally can just resonate with everything that you're saying, because oftentimes I'm one to sit back and observe. And really, if there is a void in leadership, then whether I want to or not, I just feel the need to absolutely insert myself and say, okay, that's enough. We need to get this organized here, and someone needs to take charge. But oftentimes, as confident as I am, as competent, track record, there's still this nagging doubt. I don't know if I'm the best person. And of course, usually when I step in there, I want to make sure I do a good job. But I remember an example of one time I had two colleagues and I were tasked with leading an initiative. And my first thought was, well, who's going to lead it? Internally, I'm thinking I should lead it. I know what to do. I know what needs to happen. But I'm not going to push for that. I'm going to wait to be invited. So we're all just kind of hemming and hawing around. And at the end, they were expecting me to lead it the whole time. So I was the only one that was carrying around that doubt and insecurity and hesitancy. But they were like, well, it's obvious, you go ahead and lead. I think I prefer to be invited than to step in. But I think sometimes there are occasions where we can step in, and if we step in as liberators, which is we talk about in Giant, we know how to calibrate high support and high challenge, we fight for the highest possible good, then people are relieved when we step in rather than feel like we're taking over territory that didn't belong to us. That makes sense.
That sounds a little bit like maybe mindset would be a good word to add to that. So having the right kind of mindset as you approach being invited or stepping in, how would you add on to that?
I think absolutely. I don't think how people experience us or our leadership, I think sometimes we're afraid that we're going to come off too aggressive and too ambitious, which are not bad things, right? These are not bad things. But I think this one situation doesn't define us. it's usually our whole experience that people are having with us that really shape how people feel about us and our leadership. And that's why having a mindset and a standard of leadership is so important, because we can live it day to day. And then when it's time to step into leadership, there's a seat at the table that people are wanting you to come and visit. And sometimes we have to get pushed there. Sometimes there's an invitation. But I think as women, we have the responsibility and the capacity to pull up another chair for someone else and say, come and observe what it looks like and learn. And then when you get confident, then you'll be able to lead the meeting and lead that conversation. But I don't know. I grew up in a small house, 8 people. Pulling up a chair there, was a regular thing. And it just pull up a chair and come and sit and come and observe. I think that it could be so helpful. And so that's what we're doing today. We're pulling up a chair for everyone on the live stream, right? To say, come and listen to what it sounds like to be insecure and yet still be able to lead, and how it feels to be confident and lead. But we're all in different places. And even when you get comfortable at one table, you might go to another and start all over again. I am starting from scratch, right? Jessica, you've led teams, you've led people. What are your thoughts?
There's something that you said there that I think is really powerful, and it's a myth, I think, that we have to be free of insecurity before we lead. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think that that's just a myth. We don't have to be free of insecurity. We have to face it, right? We have to understand what's going on in our self-preservation. But one of the best definitions of courage that I ever heard was doing it afraid, right? Mm-hmm. To be courageous in leadership means I'm going to go ahead and do this afraid. I'm going to go ahead and do this knowing that I could be misunderstood. But to your point, really, we build the reputation of who we are as a leader through the body of work, right? We do that through consistently being who we really are. And that may be misunderstood the first time. It may be uninvited the first time. But I think that if we will keep showing up to the table, and then to your point, Maria, when we have a seat at the table, not forgetting to pull up seats for other people. Mm-hmm. I think it's very easy as a leader to go, okay, I'm going to lead with a scarcity mindset. There's only a place for me. Mm-hmm. And to forget that our influence isn't primarily for ourselves, right? Our influence is really fundamentally for other people. And when we lead like that, we actually create more opportunity, not less opportunity for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of that word, Jessica, scarcity and versus abundance. And having an abundance mindset is so important. And it's also making me think of Carol Dweck's growth mindset concept versus fixed. And I think as leaders, as women, when we come to the table with a growth mindset, with an abundance mindset, bringing others along is a natural outcome of that. So I agree with you. I think that's so important.
That's so good. Yeah. So I know that some people watching, they heard us all introduce ourselves. Oh, 27 years married, this many years married, this many kids. There are women that are here, or maybe there are women that didn't come because they said, well, I don't belong in this crowd right here. I don't have a career, or I'm single, or I don't have children, or whatever it is. So what would you say to that woman? Jessica?
Yeah. One of the things that I have really been thinking about in this season of time, first of all, to Amy's introduction of leadership, what is leadership? Leadership is influence, right? And influence is something that we steward wherever we are. So we have to first know ourselves to lead ourselves. So even if the only person sitting at the leadership table is us, we still have a responsibility to know ourselves and lead ourselves. But then, the circles go out. We have influence in our family, in our team, in our organization, and in the community. And maybe we don't have a team or an organization. Maybe we only have the community, our family, and ourselves. Even in that scenario, we still have an opportunity to examine our influence and go, am I taking responsibility for the ways that I can be significant in the lives of the people that I lead, including the one in the mirror? Mm-hmm. I'm taking responsibility there. And I think that's really where it starts. And so in that way, we're all leaders. In that way, we all have a table to sit at, a table to be responsible for, an influence to steward. because wherever we have influence, we have responsibility to cultivate that influence. What do you think?
I agree. I'm thinking of a friend of mine named Nancy. She's probably a decade or so older than I am. She's not married, she's never had kids. And she's an incredibly influential leader. And she is all about raising the bar and raising other people up with her to meet that bar. And she's been a powerful influence in my life because she's been able to help me see potential in myself. I see her validating potential in other people all day long. And it really has nothing to do with what boxes you've checked and really how you call yourself to your responsibilities every day.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said, Jessica. I think leadership and influence start at the table, whether it's the kitchen table or the boardroom table, right? And there's a seat at the table. And at a minimum, if you can see, I'm leading myself. Do I trust myself? Do I make commitments that I follow through on? Right? All of those things, when you start there, we always say, when you invest in yourself, develop your self-awareness, develop that competence, that confidence, people around you begin to feel the impact of that confidence, of that influence. And it affects our children, and it affects the people that we're doing life with in community. It might be our nieces and nephews, or in some other kind of community context, but also the people that are working around us. You don't have to have a staff, and you don't have to have employees to take on the responsibility of leadership. And I think that's the first shift that we need to make as women and as leaders is, I'm leading myself. How good a job am I doing? If I had to rate my boss, me, right? How good am I doing there? And then go out into that family circle, and then the team organization and the community. But if we're waiting to have a staff or to be put in charge of an initiative or a project or something before we exercise those leadership capacities, we're missing out on opportunities. You don't become a leader, when they give you people, you begin to learn how to be a leader before. And then when you are given those responsibilities, whether it's children, employees, a team, or an initiative, you're prepared. And so I think what we do at Giant, the leadership principles that we teach, the concepts are for everyone. For everyone, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or whether you are the CEO of an organization, these skills translate all across, because we are around people all the time, and we are having an impact and influence on them as we engage with them. And so being mindful of what's it like to be on the other side of me really is being mindful of what's my leadership look like. And I think it's something that we can all begin to work on, regardless of who we're living with or working with. It's something that people can develop. And so that's the invitation today, right? Is come to the table, come learn what it's like to be a leader, because you're going to need it at some point. You're going to exercise it, and you'll be prepared.
Maria, what you just said, I just had an aha. I have to say, on the live stream, I just had an aha from Maria all the time. You said, we build trust with ourselves. If we're just thinking about that self circle, if we're just knowing ourselves to lead ourselves, how's that going? And it made me think about this morning, not going to my workout, right? And this is not a dominator statement, right? Like, I'm really going, okay, now how do I liberate myself? But the concept of building trust with myself and being able to go, yeah, I can trust myself to set a commitment. Yep, I can trust myself to not eat the cookie after dinner, whatever it may be. It's silly. But the concept of building trust with yourself, building credibility that you can lead yourself, really is the core of being able to build healthy influence habits in every circle. So thank you for that. That was so insightful. Just something about that phrasing really helped me.
I agree. I was thinking as you were talking, Maria, and then Jessica, to pile on to what you're saying there, that ripple effect notion that if you're good with yourself, if you are being true to yourself, then there is the opportunity for that ripple effect. So if you're not in a believing you belong kind of place to yourself, you're not going to be able to do that for anybody else. So there's a contagious and a good way opportunity that we have. If we'll invite ourselves into our own circle and believe that we belong there, we can do it in every other circle.
Yeah, that's so
Absolutely.
good. So going back to someone's statement, I think it was Maria who said, pull up a seat for someone else. So at Giant, we use visual tools a lot. And I think that's what drew me to Giant, is because I can kind of ingrain these in my memory. And one of them is this tool right here, and I'm going to pull it up. Fighting for the highest possible good in the lives of those they lead. Thinking about, being with you girls today, you ladies, remember back in junior high when it was awful to go to the lunch table because you didn't know if a friend of yours was going to be there, and oh goodness, I might be there alone and have to navigate this all by myself. And back then, immature. I mean, we didn't know each other back then, but I'm sure we were all immature because we were only thinking of ourselves. We weren't looking at the world around us and the other people who were scared to death to go to the table, right? Now we've matured, hopefully, and stepped into our leadership roles. And that's why I love this tool. Maria, do you mind just kind of defining this tool for us, telling us what it is?
Absolutely. A leader needs to have a mindset, a standard that they constantly can go back to day in and day out, regardless of who they're interacting with. Regardless. And that standard for us is to fight for the highest possible good in the lives of those you lead. Whether you're leading yourself, your children, your staff, your employees, volunteers, whatever it is, to fight for the highest possible good is to eliminate personal agendas, to eliminate what's convenient for you, and to begin to think about, what do they need from me? What does it look like? And you calibrate two things. You calibrate high support and high challenge. And the reason leading is hard is because you have to figure out that combination of support and challenge for each person, and each one requires a different calibration. But if you will take the time to figure out how to fight for the highest possible good in the lives of your children, your employees, your coworkers, your friends, your mom, your sister, your husband, whatever it is, it will impact every relationship you have. And you don't have to go back and find something to fit that situation. This fits every situation. This is the ideal. This is the standard that we shoot for. That's what we call it, that mindset. If we can begin to adopt that, it will change our lives. It is one concept, but it'll take you a lifetime to master, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
So true. Jessica, anything to add to this?
I can remember early on in my career getting some advice from a more seasoned woman at the university. And, I was young and I led student life. And so sometimes I wore t-shirts and jeans and one day I said, hey, do you think that it matters if I wear blazers and suits to work? And she said, actually, I do. She said, I get ready every single day for work so that I fix my hair, I do my makeup, and I get ready for work so that I can get out of my own way. And I think that sometimes we need to do that, right? And I'm not just talking about getting ready, but I think we need to settle ourselves. Am I at peace with me? Am I humble and confident and secure? Am I okay on the inside? And we need to settle it before the day begins so that we can get out of our own way, so that we can fight for the highest possible good in the lives of those that we lead. So that's settling it within ourselves. That's fighting for us starting out. But then once I do that, I'm out of my way so that I can see every person, even the little people, even the person at Starbucks. I can see every person as someone who needs liberation. Not that I'm some sort of savior, right? But that I'm looking for opportunities to be a liberator. I'm looking for opportunities to fight in a good way, not fight on social media, fight for the highest possible good in the lives of those that we lead, which sometimes actually means shutting it up, right? Mm-hmm. But most of the time it's answering those questions. Do they need more support or more challenge from me? Mm-hmm. Are my expectations clear? If I have frustration, I have an expectation, right? So I need to work through those questions with whomever I'm leading, whether it's a client, a friend, or a family member. And as I do that day in and day out, to Maria's point, then I'm going to live a lifestyle of liberation that really is about other people and not about me.
Mm-hmm. Jessica, something you said is really resonating with me right now, and it's starting with yourself, like fighting for yourself first. I've heard, and I think we probably all heard the definition of humility is that it's not about thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So getting that right first thing out of the day so you can get out of your own way and not come to things with insecurity or arrogance, I think is huge. And then that confidence piece of really knowing what your strengths are, what are you bringing to add value, and not having arrogance about that either. But that is really resonating with me as part of the fighting for the highest possible good in others. You got to start with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to remind everybody who's watching, we would love interaction from you. And so if you're a chatter and you like to do that, we would love to hear from you. If you have questions or comments, I know we've got some comments going on the Giant platform. Margaret says, I agree, Jessica. I've worked remotely for many, many years and always get dressed as if I'm going into a formal office. It is a mindset you're establishing for yourself. And then Andrea says, Jessica said, trust myself. Do I follow through on my commitments to myself? And so we're not talking about some selfish, put yourself first type of mindset. That's not it at all. But leaders go first in the hard stuff, right? Leaders go first when it comes to, we can't challenge someone else on something that we're not doing ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's
Okay.
so good. I like the idea of getting out of our own way. And I think part of that is understanding our own wiring and understanding who we are so that we don't show up trying to be someone that we're not.
Yeah.
So I think that is a mistake that we make. We see a strong leader and we think that's what leadership must look like. So I have to be that. And either it's intimidating because I can't be that, and so I stay back here, or I am disingenuous and I feel like I'm wearing someone else's clothes, trying to be someone that I'm not. So understanding that all of us can lead regardless of our wiring, but we've got to lead genuinely understanding who we are. And in that process, we get out of our own way and we can confidently lead. And so I want to just encourage women who are listening, whether you feel like you deserve to be there or not, you absolutely can lead. I have seen many women over the years that I've worked just gain that confidence because now that I understand myself, I know who I am. And so I can move with confidence and humility and strength and do what I need to do for my family, for my team, for my church, for my volunteer, or whatever it is. And it's beautiful to see because people are attracted to that confidence, that humility.
We do have one question coming in from Mandy. She says, you all seem like very confident women. I don't feel like I'm competent enough to lead anyone. How do I grow my confidence?
That is such a good question, Mandy. And I'm a recovering insecure person. That would have been my middle name if you had met me a number of years ago. And I have to practice every day remembering and believing that I belong. And so I think the very first step of developing confidence is just choosing to believe. I saw a meme or something the other day in social media that says, choose your hard. You can choose to be fit physically, you can choose to be unfit, but either choice is hard. And so I think we have to know that it's going to be hard to develop confidence and that humble, confident, secure feeling, but it actually is a choice. So you can either sit and be insecure and unconfident or choose to practice in very small ways developing that. That's what's helped me, having come from that really insecure place.
Amy, if I can pile on, I'll say I don't know if we have the self-preservation tool, Tracy, where we could pull it up, but I think for me, that tool, that breaking through the walls of self-preservation and figuring out what am I trying to hide, what am I afraid of losing, and what am I trying to prove and to whom, what I found was that there were themes to those things for me that would trigger my insecurity or would drive my insecurity. So this probably sounds kind of hard, but I got gut level with myself and was like, okay, what is it? What am I trying to prove? And there were two things. I'm just going to tell you guys on the live stream, and hopefully this gets deleted. There were two things. I was trying to prove that I was the smartest person in the room. And then I was trying to prove that I was likable. Because the insecurity was you're not smart enough and people don't like you, right? Like those were the two things that I was feeling in any given space. not all the time everywhere, right? I would call my mom, and my mom likes me and thinks I'm smart. But in any other place, I needed to kind of wrestle down those patterns of thinking in order to be able to move past them. And I feel like I have. And that has really helped me, because now I can see them coming and go, that's not true. I already dealt with you, little lies that are going to threaten me. And that was a really, really helpful exercise over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. I want to bring that tool in next week, because I want us to really go through it and really dissect it, because it's such a good one.
Yeah.
And we are kind of running out of time, and I hate that. Maria, did you have a last word or some words?
I think to wrap up what Amy and Jessica were saying, it's really stopping to think, what does support and challenge look like for me? Because if I'm constantly challenging myself, putting myself down to an unhealthy degree, right? It's just challenge. I never bring any support. I never think about, how can I take care of myself? What can I do? What am I doing well? And challenging yourself to the point where you identify what it is, you call it out, and you say, you're not taking confidence away from me, again, as Jessica described, but be a liberator for yourself first. And then you will be able to develop that confidence that you're talking about, that Amy was describing. And it's a process. It is a long process, and you'll want to go back to these tendencies, but now you can recognize them. And that's the best part. It's like, okay, I can recognize what's going on. I get through it a lot faster, and I keep moving forward.
That's so good. Well, ladies, I could sit here and talk forever. I can't believe how fast 30 minutes just went. I know there's a lot of chat going on in the chat right now. And so for those of you listening, and those of you especially on the Giant platform, keep the chats going. We're going to keep that open even after we kind of shut down this. But for those of you on LinkedIn and Facebook, I wanted to let you know that we have a gift for you, and it's the platform, the Giant platform. If you just go to giant.tv, and if you know one of these ladies, put a slash behind it and their name. So if you know Jessica, or you're drawn to want to know more about Jessica, giant.tv/Jessica Rimmer, or giant.tv/Maria Guy, or giant.tv/Amy Norton. And what happens when you do that is you get this amazing mini series, episodes, pathways, resources from the Giant platform that can help with some of these things that we're talking about. Self-awareness, and how do I gain confidence and yet be humble as a leader? How do I give support and challenge? How do I liberate my family, my children, my husband, my coworkers? All of those things are addressed in the Giant Ascend free account. So giant.tv/whichever these ladies. And you will be amazed at how many hours and hours and hours of content are on there for you to grow and learn. But also, these ladies are available and are consultants. And so if that's something that your company is interested in, these are ladies that you could reach out to as well. And you can always email me to get information about that, tracy.rader@giantworldwide.com. But we want to keep this conversation going week after week. And so we want you to come back. And next week, we're going to talk about all things gratitude. And do we have a mindset and a heart of gratitude as women and as leaders? Those of you who are men, do you have a mindset of gratitude? And so we invite you back, same time, same place next week, but we want you to bring friends. We want you to tell your spouse about it, your mother, your sister, your daughters, whoever, bring them back with you. So thank you again for just having a midday break and spending it with us. We really appreciate it. And again, the chat is going to be open for a little bit, so keep the chat going. If you have questions that we can address possibly next week, put them in the chat and we'll try to get to all of those, okay? So Jessica, Amy, Maria, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I always learn from each of you. Any last words, Jessica? It feels like you have something on the tip of your tongue.
No. I just was saying, you're invited. Bring your friends